אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד ובמושב לצים לא ישב כי אם בתורת אדוני חפצו ובתורתו יהם יומם ולילה והיה כעת שתולה לפלגי מים אשר פריו ייתן בעתו והלכו לא ייפול וכל אשר יעשם יצליח לכן הרשעים כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפנו רוח על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט וחטאים בהדת צדיקים כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד.
לדוד מזמור, לאדוני הארץ ומלואה, תבל ויושביה, כי הוא הימים יסדה, ועל נהורות יכונניה. מי יעלה בהר אדוני, ומי יקום במקום קדשו. נקי כפיים ובר לבב, אשר לא נשא לשווא נפשי, ולא נשבע למרמה. יישא ברכה מאת אדוני, וצדקה מאלוהי אישו. The earth is the Lord's, with all of its fullness. The world is the Lord's, with all of its inhabitants. Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in the holy place? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. He will receive a blessing from the Lord and a just reward from the God of deliverance. Kol omer kra va'amar ma'ekra. Kol habasar chatzir v'chol chasto katzitz hasadeh. Yavesh chatzir navel tzitz ki ruach Adonai nashva bo. Achein chatzir ha'am yavesh chatzir navel tzitz u'devar Elohinu yakum li'olam. A voice says, cry out. But I ask, what shall I cry? All flesh is like grass. All of its beauty is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, and the flower fades, when a wind from God blows upon it. Surely, therefore, people are like grass. The grass withers, and the flower fades, but the word of God endures forever. I think Howard was a man who always remembered what it was all for. A lot of people work hard, long hours, and they forget what it's all for. He never forgot what it was all for. He pushed for buildings to be built, but he never forgot the importance of the people living inside the buildings. He gave everything he had to the workplace, but you knew he'd be home for dinner at 6:30 when you were growing up. He spent his days concerned with those who are elderly, but he also always maintained a young and a creative mind. Lynn, I asked you why it worked well with Howard. You know, he was 13 years older than you. He said Howard always thought young. And that was one of his gifts. He gave his all in everything that he did. He showed that he cared in his deeds and in his thoughts. He had vision. I mean, he literally had vision. He saw what Menorah Park could be someday. Larry, you said when it all started, there was just a lot of empty land. I mean, there's no highway built there. Nothing was built yet. But Howard pushed for it. Why? Because he could see it in his mind. Somebody else would have seen a barren field, but he had vision. Howard could envision what a remarkable thing such a Jewish campus could be like, and specifically he could envision Menorah Park becoming a model throughout the country. He could see what wasn't there, but what could be there, and then he was ready to get to work to get it done. Leslie, what was it you said that at Howard and Lynn's wedding, right? We just talked about this before. Your eldest, a little boy, year and a half, and you could not think that it was a good idea for him to be at the wedding, but that's not what the vision was in your dad's mind. He saw it, what he wanted. He wanted his grandson either in his arms, which ended up being the case. He wanted his grandson at the wedding. He envisioned it, and it came true. He knew that that moment was also for the newest generations. Many things came true in Howard's life, and that includes his personal life. He was married, of course, to your mother for 27 years. She died while still quite young. But growing up, you remember your home being a place of lots of activity. Your home was always open to visitors, whether for dinner or otherwise. There were parties, lots and lots of good friends, a close neighborhood. And you were very close to your extended family, to your father's sisters' families, you would journey out to see them cross country. I know your cousins, almost like siblings to you. I know that a number of them are here today. You had in your upbringing lots of warm, happy, close-knit feelings, lots of celebration, lots of family time. Your parents had met. Your dad worked on his degrees, including an MBA, working on an MBA in Columbus. They came back here to begin his first job, and that first job would be his only job, the only job he would ever need at Menora Park. And that first job became not only the only job he ever needed, but he found his calling. He found his calling, a calling that combined Howard's incredible sense of kindness and caring with his ability to think through the needs of the people living there and his determination to respond to those needs. He was a selfless individual. He worked hard and he worked tirelessly. And he was loyal and responsive as a director of staff. Not only residents, but the staff knew how much he cared. He modeled hard work. He modeled dedication. He modeled being a decent human being. He modeled the Jewish ethic for conducting yourself. And yet at the same time, he was a good listener. He didn't expect to be the only one with ideas. He was open to the ideas of others. He encouraged the suggestions of others. He brought out the best in his staff. He brought out their creativity and their motivation. He didn't want to hear reasons why it couldn't be done. He rather wanted to spend his time on getting it done. He and his team were creating the structure and the supports that still exist today, whether in independent living or assisted living, the different levels of assistance needed for different clients. Howard was open to trying new things. He was generous, he cared about people, and he understood what they needed. He developed the Employees Emergency Fund to help those working, partly out of the funds that grew out of the death of your mom and in the donations given. He put the donations to very, very sensitive use. Your father suffered greatly, of course, in the light of your mother's death. He had, and he was a man with such a capacity to love and such a capacity to care, and yet he was alone. Steve and Larry, the three of you lived together during that period, and it was you knew it was a sad and painful time for your dad. But he continued at work, able to bring meaning to others' lives, even as he was struggling with his own. And so perhaps it should not be surprising that the key to his future occurred at work, right? Because he and Lynn met. Lynn, you joined the staff. Howard interviewed you. He hired you, and then he married you. Although not just like that. It wasn't quite like that. It was a little time passing. As you put it, I mean, the kids sitting around you couldn't have said it any better. We couldn't say it any better. Howard experienced two great loves in his life. And Lynn, all of those sitting around you have called you such a blessing to their family and a blessing, of course, to Howard and to all of their children because you've been such a wonderful grandmother. Your warmth and your temperament, your sharing of Howard's life became a model to them as well. You have felt their love all the time and their acceptance, and you and Howard were married for these wonderful 31 years. You fell in love with Howard's very giving heart and encouraging mind. At work, no one was more giving. And his mind was always progressive and encouraging. He encouraged you to continue your education, to go and work on a degree. He empowered you. You both shared a love of exercise, a love of travel, and you both supported and stimulated each other's artistry and creativity. Howard painted quite a bit. He detailed portraits of the grandchildren. your personalities affirmed each other, and you two had a wonderful life together. You married a man who always thought of others first, and who was, simply put, the most optimistic person in the world. He would build other people's self-esteem, and that started at home, because all of you, the kids, you all knew your dad loved you. As the three of you grew up and became adults, that became even more pronounced. Doesn't matter how old you get. A child never forgets when their father's proud of them. And as you explained to me those moments in each of your lives, your eyes may be on the body of an adult, but those eyes were still the eyes of a child looking for their father's approval. And you got it, strongly and consistently. And you take immeasurable comfort and satisfaction out of that. His influence on the three of you is apparent and explicit. All of you have gone into nonprofit work, organizational work, and higher education or religion and social service. Each of you are keenly aware of your Jewish identity. Each of you are aware of your responsibility to make this world a better place. You learned that mission at home. It's not just what you do. Like I said, many people are busy. It's can you answer the question, what is it for? And I think at home, you learned the idea of mission, a mission that your dad always felt, which is why he always had such satisfaction in life. You knew the answer from childhood to help others, to make others better, and to make life better for others. All those days helping out at Menorah Park, right, on snow days when the staff couldn't come, you were there, completing certain tasks when staff couldn't make it, that is, unless your dad didn't go to pick them up in the middle of a blizzard. Your father taught you to give 100% to people on a daily basis, and he gave 100% to people as a career, and you never saw it any other way. 38 years of a career with Menorah Park. He retired at 62. He served on various boards of community service. He was a consultant for a period, and he enjoyed life so much with Lynn and with the family and with the grandchildren. Howard was a person who, if he were your friend, he had your back. If you were his employee, if you were his client, certainly if you were his child or grandchild, or his parents. I know he moved his mother in with the family for a period of time when she grew more vulnerable. And he was always close with his father, the patriarch of the family. You knew what was important to him. Everyone did. Being Jewish, being a good person, and knowing what it was all about. He always did his duty, even dating back to serving in the war. In World War II, when he volunteered too young, he was 17, but he wanted to enlist. So much, very much Howard, wanting to serve others. He trained in communications, but evidently he got to Europe and they handed him a medic bag and he was now a medic. He was there at the Battle of the Bulge. He was in Germany at the end of the war, saw concentration camps, and he won certificates and medals of bravery. Again, some people work all their lives, but they never really find their calling. They never really find their mission, and they are left with a certain place of emptiness. He knew his calling. His life had meaning because he found his calling and fulfilled it in a way that no one else could have. And those of you who loved him and respected him were inspired and moved by that. These last few years were difficult for him, more challenging. And Steve, I know you were close by in Pittsburgh, ever able to come and be dedicated on site. But all of you, in your own ways, as friends and family, supported him and continued to love him for these many years. He lived with a good name, and he died with a good name. Steve?
Hello, hello everyone. I'm Steve. My dad's oldest son, and I am speaking on behalf of my sister Leslie and brother Larry, and I have incorporated their comments. So, as an executive director at synagogues for many years, 30 years, I had asked the senior rabbi in Atlanta if he had any advice for me when I was giving greetings to church business administrators in Atlanta. And I had never done that before, and there were 500 administrators that I would be giving greetings for from my National Association of Temple Administrators. So I asked for his advice, and he told me, the only advice he gave me was to be brief. So That I was, and so I've been able to cut down my speech here to only a half an hour.
Just joking.
My dad would have liked that joke. I moved to Pittsburgh from Atlanta about 3 years ago, and it gave me an opportunity to visit Dad and my stepmom, Lynn, often. I will always treasure those visits. I was in awe of the kind of care and love that Lynn provided for my dad. For the last 1.5 years, Dad was at Stone Gardens where he received quality care. I would say it was a true life of service. Service to his country, service to his community, and service to his family. He was a sweet and gentle man. We, his children, thank Dad for all he did for us and for leaving his handprint on our hearts. Our dad had every ailment known to humankind. There were several times that I and my siblings needed to come in immediately, and we brought funeral clothes with us. He lived, I believe, by this saying, "Rage, rage, rage, out goes the light." And what that means is he loved life so much that it helped him fight major illness and make more comebacks than I would ever imagine. And that studs well with all of his siblings because I think we've inherited all the hereditary challenges. Dad developed an ethical will about 20 years ago. I don't think he thought he was going to live as long as he did, and but this ethical will is still very relevant today. It's timeless. He asked that copies be made and given to his children and grandchildren. They are guidelines of life to live, and he had 19 bullet points. Just read it yesterday, as well as the family, and it's really how he lived his life. And I thought I'd read 3 of the 19, just to give you a glimpse. So here's one of the bullet points. Accept responsibility. It is always easier to say no and let the other person do it. But someone has to take the responsibility, and you should take your turn when called upon. If involved in volunteerism or professional groups, when it comes your time to take an office, step forward and do your part. His second bullet point was learn your entire life. Even when finished with school, continue to read and study to the day of your death. And his last one, and like I said, these copies are going to be going to us, the children, and his grandchildren to live by. This is the last one. He said, I loved Lindbergh dearly. She was a wonderful wife to me and a wonderful stepmother to my children and mother-in-law, to my children's mates, and grandmother to my grandchildren. She is the grandmother of my grandchildren in every way, even though not blood related. Love her, keep close to her, share your lives with her, enable her to make her life as happy as possible after I'm gone. We all love my dad.
We rise now for the memorial prayer.
Hey, Malay Rachamim, Shochain Bameromim, Ametzei Menochanechon, Tachat Kanefei Ashkin, במחלות קדושים ודהרים, כזוהר גרקי המזהירים, את נשמת צבי בן משה ותמרה, שהלך לעולמו, בגדות הנתחי מנוחתו, אנא בבל הרחמים, הסתירייגו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
May we remember all of the worthy and the righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. May he rest in peace. And we all say Amen.
Amen.
Let's be seated, everyone. We want to offer our condolences to the family, to Lynn, Leslie and Mark, Stephen and Laura, Larry and Lisi, Alice and Thomas, Mark and Donna, Stephen, Edith, Rosalind, and 9 grandchildren. The family will be receiving friends for the Shiva visitation at Acacia Park Drive, 2111 Acacia Park Drive, in the community room at Sherry Park, in Lyndhurst, immediately following the burial portion of the service, and continuing until 9 p.m. tonight. Then the hours for Monday and Tuesday are 2 to 4 p.m. and 7 to 9 p.m. Please remain in your seats for a few moments. We're now going to take these moments to arrange the processional for the burial portion of the service. Again, please remain in your seats, but the pallbearers should now come forward.